Today's topic is war. Is the war imminent? What do the astrology charts say? Lately, the discourses of various leaders have always been in the direction of war. In fact, it is clear that we are heading towards a regional war. We have drawn attention to the months of July and August. Since December last year, let's draw more attention to December already. I wonder how the situation is in the coming summer months. I recently gave a presentation for the summer seminars of our astrology school. I made a 3-hour presentation. I would like to share a very short part of it here. Recently, the President of Serbia, the Prime Minister of Hungary, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey have always mentioned the issue of war. Well, and especially the next 34 months. The speech of the President of Serbia, who said that there may be a war in the country, had attracted a lot of attention recently. Moreover, this cover of The Economist magazine, published recently, with the subject of war, was the cover that attracted the most attention and has already begun to be commented on by many commentators. Of course, artificial intelligence is also mentioned. Here, we see that it is involved, from the letters A and I in the middle. Everything is now connected to technology. There are cyber wars. Therefore, there are signs that artificial intelligence will be used in any upcoming regional or larger war. And also, it is not limited to these. On the one hand, what is happening in Israel? We know the end. Unfortunately, we still see the massacre in Gaza. Well, there was a headline saying, and quote, towards a big war between Israel and Iran. And quote. Again, there is a constant war between Hezbollah and Israel in the last period when the tensions are the most, and on the other hand, it is a little further behind. In fact, China's exercise against Taiwan raised the question of whether China was invading or occupying the animal. In fact, as a reminder, there was a solar eclipse that took place at 19 degrees of Aries as of April 8th, and we have mentioned that this atmosphere of war became much more evident after that. Astrologically, and when this degree is triggered, we are heading towards one. Before moving on to the maps, I want to say one thing right away. My special subject is working on solar activities and human movements, that is, periods of intense explosions in the sun and especially periods of turbulence in the Earth's magnetic field. If we look at the studies of the past 5,000 years, Russian scientist by Jess, especially looking at the reviews, it seems to be related to times when human excitement is high and wars or coups, big rebellions, etc., and revolutions related to themes such as various reforms. We are currently in the maximum period of the sun. In fact, we will reach the peak of the maximum in 2025, and 2025 will be 2024. These are astrological facts. Well, this 2-year period until 2026 is subject to major changes throughout the world, but since we are talking about this war here, is it so close? What do the astrology charts say? Some of the dates we drew a lot of attention in the programs we attended last year, especially on New Year's Eve. As I mentioned today, a group of sunspots, which had previously caused a geomagnetic storm in May, a group of sunspots, will be entering the shooting range, so to speak, in the next day or two to return to the Earth's direction. Therefore, we are now on June 24th. Well, we are in a remarkable time since the 26th and 27th of the month. Today, there was an information sharing on the Space Weather website. It was that a coronal mass ejection in the direction of Mars would hit Mars exactly on June 27th. Of course, when Mars is mentioned, we think of war, military issues, struggle, conflict. Weapons are coming. Well, June 27th, when the Earth's right angle with Mars will be effective, will actually become clear. Around July 2nd, it draws attention in this regard. So, there is already an activity in military matters, but it is an astrological fact that we are heading towards a more aggressive time period. July 2nd, 3. The dates are particularly noteworthy and are the time when geomagnetic storms will increase. Now let's start slowly with the maps. First of all, we have the Cancer new moon, which will take place on June 6th, the new moon full. Moon maps always give us a slightly wider perspective. This map will take place at 14 degrees. Cancer. This new moon is with the star Sirius. In fact, Sirius is a small movement that produces big results. Sometimes we make a small movement, its effects become larger, or it describes such effects. It is the brightest star of the northern hemisphere. Of course, on one side, it has a very important spiritual side, regarding the transformation of the ordinary into the sacred. Well, it is always said that the star Syrah is mentioned as Shira in the Holy Quran. I will also make a publication about this. On the one hand, there is such an effect on this date of July 6th, when it can rise spiritually, but on the other hand, it is not limited only to the degree of this new moon. It is very close to the degree of the zodiac sign, that is, the map we drew according to Ankara. But it is close to our region, and some other countries will also be affected. It is very close to the ascending line of the Mars-Uranus conjunction. Mars even passes over Ankara. Therefore, military issues are not a military issue, since such a planet line also passes through the capital of our country. It shows us that the issues will be on our agenda much more intensively in July. Even more after July 6th. Of course, when this is shown on a geographical map, it is possible to see it much more clearly. In fact, let's show it like this. Look at the axis where Mars and Uranus intersect with the horizon plane. Warsaw. This is Minsk. Well, this region, where Russia is located, passes through Kiev. So, when we look at Belarus on one side, Warsaw on the other side, etc. Well, Bucharest, Romania. In fact, in the period we are in, there was a statement made by Orbán, the Prime Minister of Hungary. He listed 3 countries that are in Russia's target. Romania, he said, Slovakia, well, and he mentioned one more country, I will tell you in a moment. He said that it was a more risky time period for these 3 countries. Poland, well, and Slovakia, and Romania. When we look at it now, we see that the lines are already passing in this direction. Although it is also involved in the work, and of course, this line is coming, it is coming over the Black Sea, it also passes over our Ankara. Of course, it goes down, it is not limited to us. Let me explain by moving to this side. I am moving a little slowly so as not to disturb the camera. Well, look, there is Beirut below, that is, the region where Lebanon is located. In fact, the maps show everything very clearly. These geographical maps are really very successful in terms of expressing the general events on this subject. Of course, here is Israel. This whole region. So Lebanon, where the aggression is currently turning, passes through this whole region. On the other hand, the axis where Uranus coincides with the ascendant. Again, over the Black Sea, over Kiev, look, there is Kiev above, let me take it down a little bit, over Kiev. Coming down from Minsk, over Kiev again, my lord is coming. Well, over Iraq, it is coming down. That is, it passes through an area close to Baghdad. On the one hand, Turkey. As I said before, our country will also be operational in that region in the coming month, starting from July in northern Iraq and Syria. Well, I guess there will be much more intense military movements in that region. Based on the maps. So if we look at these maps, yes, that is, starting from July 6th. Actually, there is such a situation that started from July 2 to 3, which I mentioned a day or two ago, but intensified after July 6th. So, how is the astrological map of Turkey affected by this? The moon is very close to Pluto, which means great powerful struggle and reconstruction. In the astrology chart of Turkey, Pluto joins the star Sirius. That's why I talk about it in videos at various times. Turkey's Sirian duty, that is, the New World Order. Maybe our country will arise from Anatolian lands. Anyway, well, in any way. In case of a war between NATO and Russia, we can call it European countries and Russia, and then maybe when we talk about a complicated situation in which the United States will be involved, of course, without Turkey, which is the second largest military power of NATO, as far as I know, getting involved. I hope we will be successful in this direction in the diplomatic traffic, but I understand that we will be in a difficult situation. The new moon, converging with Sirius on this Pluto, seems to be Turkey's Sirian, that is, the Anatolian lands. That we define as the Holy Land. Well, and you know, turning the worldly into the sacred, the ordinary. Themes such as going beyond the ordinary will revolve around us. Therefore, it is a period of time in which we will stand out much more. There is a retrograde of Saturn at the top of the map. This is actually the rulers of our country's rulers. In general terms, this is an area where they need to take responsibility, as Saturn has started to retrograde, so it will start right at the end of this week. Well, starting from June 29th, it's as if you don't try to retreat all the time, try to hold back, try to save time, try to postpone, so naturally, don't try to avoid getting into a war. As if explaining the effort, Mars and Uranus here will be uniting with the Algol star, which I will show in a moment. It will be in opposition to the Jupiter degree of the Turkish astrology chart, which actually puts pressure on an area that concerns our administrators and the issues related to the countries and organizations with which we are in alliance, in the military sense, especially NATO. By the way, of course, at the last G7 summit, President Tayyip Erdogan was invited and held various consultations there. The G7 summit was held in a much broader portfolio that goes outside the country, etc. So various organizations and community-related issues will be very seriously active in a way that will put pressure on the government's agenda, and military alliances will also be involved, that is, NATO-related issues. The summer months are very active in this respect, so the possibility of our country being involved in this in some way is quite high. But of course, the decisions to be taken and the steps to be taken are decisive in this direction. Because astrology charts indicate general potentials and high probabilities, but developments are still in the direction of the decisions taken by people and their leaders. That is why we cannot say for sure that it will be like this, but we are not talking about low probabilities, we are talking about high probabilities. An important conjunction 15 in July, of course, this date is important for us. There was a coup attempt on July 15th. It falls exactly here. Mars-Uranus conjunction. This is a general situation, so it is not an isolated situation that concerns Turkey. Mars-Uranus is in exact conjunction on July 15, 26. There is the star Algol at 26 degrees of Taurus and 26 degrees of Taurus. It says Algol in front of Mars, and it says Algol in front of Uranus. This conjunction is at 26 degrees, because Algol is one of the hardest stars in the sky and creates a direct atmosphere of war. In other words, Algol represents the severed head of Medusa in mythology. Therefore, it is related to themes such as executions, deaths, and massacres. I will also share information about this subject from the book Fixed Stars, but I am making a quick publication here. Therefore, such a violent star is a conjunction that is referred to as Heisel. Of course, it indicates violent and harsh events. In fact, around July 15th, Uranus-Algol has started to get closer to the conjunction in the days we are in. This is not for a short time, but in 2025, it is one of the planets that moves slowly in its orbit with Uranus and draws a long orbit. So, has this Mars-Algol conjunction happened before? Yes, it happened at times. In fact, let me take my notes and read the date. I am going backwards. This conjunction last took place on March 1, 1942. I am talking about the conjunction of Mars-Uranus in Taurus, aligned with Algol, and interestingly, the conjunction of Mars-Jupiter-Rigel star, which I will talk about in a moment, will be on August 14th. Back-to-back in 1942. Similar to today, first Mars-Uranus-Algol conjunction, then Mars-Jupiter and Rigel conjunction. As I said, the Algol conjunction happened on March 1, 1942, but Jupiter-Mars Rigel conjunction happened on April 3, 1942, so about a month apart. Now Mars-Uranus-Rigel on July 15. Well, Algol conjunction. On August 14th, there is Mars-Jupiter-Rigel conjunction, so there is a similarity. What happened in 1942? World War I, an economically troubled period. Well, a period in which countries are falling apart. A period in which various human losses occur every day. A very serious war atmosphere. Second, I am going back a little further with the name World War on them. I continue to give the dates I reached by following the Uranus cycles of approximately 84 years. On May 6, 1857, this conjunction was again aligned with the Algol star Mars-Uranus-Algol. There are various events in 1857, but the most notable is a very important economic crisis. In other words, there is an economic crisis defined as the world's first major economic crisis. What is being talked about in the period we are going through right now is that it is heading towards recession. It is said that the world is heading towards stagflation. It is heading towards the Great Recession. Period. Astrology confirms this, and I have been saying this for a long time. So such a period is a period. In connection with the war, the economies in 1942 were of course bad, and in 1857 there were various rebellions. There are such aggressive situations. But there is also the biggest crisis. The previous one was on July 6, 1772, and the previous one was on April 28, 1605. I am going back to before that, for example, around June 18, 1520, in 1520, the world is like this. Again, well, the times when there was a great drought and some natural disasters. Well, we can also give some information about this subject, about the dates of each of them, but there were difficult times, that is, algal conjunctions. Therefore, in its troubled state, it tells us that this in the vicinity, especially the moon, when will it trigger this conjunction? July 16th. So, starting a little behind, around July 15th 166 th. In fact, it seems quite troublesome, especially in terms of economy-related issues, especially cryptocurrencies and digital-related issues. By the way, I think the issue we are talking about here the most is the main basic war. Especially since there are more technological wars, artificial intelligence is involved, military issues, hackers, that is, attacks. On the way to hacking, cyber attacks seem to play a leading role. Our next slide shows the archy lines during this conjunction. Mars and Uranus are aligned with the horizon plane. If we look at the line again, look at the same line we just showed. It is very close to Budapest, Warsaw, etc. It is again close to Kiev via Musk. It is already a line passing through Russia, and it is not far from Moscow. Therefore, when we look at it, we understand that this aggression will actually be active on July 15th. Our next map is the August 14th map that I mentioned. What is on this date? Mars and Jupiter are in conjunction with the star Algol. I am correcting, there is a conjunction with the star Rigel. Mars is in conjunction with Uranus at 16 degrees in Gemini, that is, at 26 degrees in Taurus. After that, Mars is in conjunction with Jupiter in Gemini at 16 degrees. Here, the conjunction of the star Rigel is of course Rigel in general terms. It's about bringing information. It's about education. It's actually about reforms and innovations. It's about teaching. It's about writing. But the media is very relevant to the press, and Mars War Jupiter carries an expansionary energy that can make people massive. It's also about religion and beliefs. The Vatican astrology chart has very deep effects. Another thing, there is a situation that goes through beliefs, not only for the Vatican, but I can say that it affects the Vatican map very much. It is also the subject of a video, but especially here, there is a very tight sky. Because the right angle of this Mars-Jupiter conjunction to Saturn, the Moon is even on full alert, and Venus is on full alert. It also has a forced angle with 14. The time period between August 20th and 20 is very tight. At the same time, there is a full moon on August 19th. The full moon is a very hard full moon. I will also make a video later. These are all separate topics. These are separate issues. The risk of natural disasters, the risk of increased seismic activity, the risk of earthquakes for our country. It attracts a lot of attention, but again, in terms of issues related to the time period between August 1420, the issues related to this war atmosphere are actually very risky. Because on one side of Rigel, it is related to themes such as attacks and, unfortunately, especially mass murders. Regarding human losses, so the atmosphere of war is even more here. It can deepen, and on top of that, This is a very triggering event for the US astrology chart. Well, the conjunction is a little further behind, especially this conjunction of Mars, Uranus and Algol, which will be on July 15th. For example, this conjunction is very triggering for Joe Biden's astrology chart. This conjunction is very triggering for Donald Trump's astrology chart. There is something I have been saying since a year ago. I said that I thought Joe Biden would not be able to complete his term of office. There could be two reasons. Firstly, he had health problems. 2ndly, he was not alive. There could be risks, especially assassinations, etc. Well, he withdrew due to health problems. Recently, especially, it is obvious that he was having mental problems. We also see in the videos we watch Donald Trump seems to be coming with a ban. Therefore, there is a change of blood here. A name I mentioned in a seminar I attended before is Gavin Newsom. Maybe it will emerge as an alternative. It was talked about in the spring months. I mentioned this in the seminar organized by Morris Fernandez. 4 astrologers we talked to are British, Canadian, American and Sir. Well, as in astrologer from Turkey, we talked in a panel on December 2024, 3. I especially said that this Gavin Nilsson has a better chance if he comes against Donald Trump. Joe Biden is very little Jesus. Harris may also be involved in some way. Jupiter passed through Gemini, making 2 leaders stand out. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris were the names I mentioned in the last Tech program I attended 3 years ago. In addition, Gavin Nilsson, who falls in the Gemini sign close to the success point of his chart, will come into play. By the way, in the United States of America, there is a lot of chaos in these months of July and August, but our main theme is war again, though the United States of America is not an exception. As I said, especially the month of August is for America. Well, for bilateral relations with other countries, this map is quite tense. When we look at the map of its conjunction with Jupiter, it passes through Brussels, again a line passing through Europe. Well, look here, it is already going to Russia, St. Petersburg, etc. It is a line passing through the same region. The focal point is exactly the area where London and Brussels are located. There is the European Union. The astrology map of the European Union will be very affected by the conjunction of Mars-Uranus with Algol. Therefore, these are difficult times for Europe. They are about to go to war with NATO. In short, this 3-month period has always been talked about. The dates that attract the most attention come into effect right from the beginning of July. It enters around the new moon on June 6th. It traces the lines from the region we are in. Around July 15th draws a lot of attention. Between August 14th and August 20th draws particular attention. Until September, at least any regional war can even be ended without a new war breaking out. On the 18th of September, the lunar eclipse in Pisces, which will take place, already points to a difficulty that I mentioned in the previous television broadcast, including Turkey, Syria, Iran, and also, if again, before anything big breaks out, September 22nd you can go up to the time when the sun passes into Libra in 1999. In that map, again, in the map drawn especially for the region including Europe and Russia, Mars is again in a remarkable position, telling about military issues, that is, the astrology maps are in line with this war atmosphere. As I said, we have already given a map. The information is for 2025. There may be even more. After December 2024, we will probably see that the China and Taiwan issue fluctuates more. It is already on the axis of Europe, NATO and Russia and America. It seems like things will get even more complicated, especially after the elections on November 5th, but I know because I follow Vladimir Putin's astrology chart. Well, I think it is one of the charts that I constantly look at. It will have much tougher maneuvers before the American elections. Well, and especially the passage of Mars through Gemini triggers Russia Vladimir Putin's astrology charts. Well, it again triggers President Tayyip Erdogan's chart very tightly. It triggers Germany's astrology chart, so many astrology charts. This map is triggered especially around the conjunction of Mars and Jupiter in August. Also, the harsh full moon Uranus, which will take place in Aquarius on August 19th, is also paying attention. Harsh explosive effects are in effect. I hope there is already a danger from a nuclear danger, but we are not talking about a nuclear use. The biggest risk lies there. Uranus is related to nuclear in astrology. Well, new moons, full moons and eclipses that are in alignment with Uranus are very risky in this regard. The closest one to us is the full moon on August 19th, at 27 degrees of Aquarius, when Uranus and the Sun are at 27 degrees and also among the other planets in the sky. That is, we actually see these on the last map we saw here. The right angle between Saturn and Mars is also effective, two of which are defined as malefics in astrology. When they are at a difficult angle, there is always the possibility of a war breaking out, and since it is with Jupiter, any war that breaks out has the risk of increasing aggression. Well, what I said. While Venus is also involved in this angle pattern, it is receiving difficult effects. Well, this may damage peace and tranquility, but it is just the timing. Well, here is the most important information given to us by a political leader. A war may occur within 34 months. It was a statement made about 2 weeks ago. Therefore, when we look at it, it is the most important information given to us by a political leader. It takes us until September, but astrological timings are more guiding here, especially effective. Aggression increases more when there are solar flares. The tendency of world leaders to make harsh decisions increases. I should also add that male leaders are most affected by solar flares. I hope it's better for everyone. Well, what can we say? It will be a moderate transition, but we are heading towards a difficult period for countries where most of the leaders are male. Therefore, it would be beneficial for us to take precautions. When we consider it from an economic perspective, the months of July and August seem quite risky, especially from the middle of July. It would be beneficial to prepare ourselves accordingly in our next publication. Goodbye until we meet again.